So I'm going to take a slightly different approach in the presentation here. What I want to focus on is the role that I think AI has got to play within the health environment. Okay, and I'll show you some of the things that we're doing within the business at Babylon. I'm not showing you this really to demo the Babylon business. It's much more about how science can be applied, okay, to give you practical examples of it. So I have to turn around on the phone, it's so tiny I can't see it. Basically today, we often say that we deal with sick care. And the reason is it doesn't matter what system, how advanced you currently are, the systems are all geared around treating you when you're sick. What we want to do with this industry, with the help of AI, is move this towards healthcare, so real true healthcare. So getting systems to start looking after you. And what do we mean by that? So today, our engineers have built a product, it's live in the market. Essentially what we do is quite simple. We connect you to doctors through video technology. And we also connect some of the details about you, blood tests through standard blood tests that you would do for the finger prick, or your steps in terms of how you walk. All of this data is collected in our systems. We store this data. We do some very simple algorithms on it, and you can come back and talk to one of our doctors, and we'll give you a consultation, we'll give you a diagnosis. But this isn't going to be sustainable as the industry needs to grow, and our whole business is geared around democratizing healthcare. We've got global ambitions. We're already on our project now working in Rwanda, where we aim to be live by the end of June this year, July. And the purpose of this is if you think about providing healthcare in those markets where people often have to work 3 or 4 weeks sometimes to see a doctor, and something as simple as a small cut on a foot can result in death. This is really, ironically, when you look at these individuals, often they have mobile devices in their pockets or certainly within their households. One of the statistics I was told actually when we met with the government of Rwanda, I was saying to them, I think there might be problems with the connectivity because what's your Wi-Fi penetration, what's your 3G penetration like at that time? And his point, we have had Korea into the country and they've completely installed 4G nationwide. And what was interesting at the time, I was giving him a presentation in the Air office, and we had a little blackout, much like the technical glitches we've had here today in the offices. So it made me really think that actually this issue about providing healthcare around the world is not an issue. It's technically achievable. The challenge we all have is with you guys in the room is if you can make the systems and the technology work that enables this and this true democratization of healthcare. Sorry, my gym tablet, I also need to go to the gym shortly as well. So just a couple of points here. So technology has become part of our life and we're all now absorbed within technology. A recent survey named Indispensable to Americans, by 2020, more people will own phones than electricity. People are not only using wearables on the wrist, we're now working with companies that have this in clothing. There's gym manufacturers and product manufacturers that are now embedding sensors into your clothing. So we can take diagnosis from there. We can look at the salts, we can look at the minerals that you're extracting as you sweat, for example. Additionally, obviously, there's the ears, there's ankles, there's all sorts of things. The really interesting thing, we launched just over 2 years ago, and 3 years ago I was at the Web Summit, and I think there was about 8 companies, and we were one of those 8, talking about healthcare and technology in healthcare. That has exploded. Last time I went was 2 years ago actually, and I saw probably about 50 companies now, and I know that the next Health Summit, which is due in Portugal later this year, they're looking at over 100 companies. So the market in health tech and science within health tech is really exploding. What we notice as well in the major app stores, we've got over 165,000 health apps that have been launched, and this is around 45,000 companies across the world. I just wanted to show you some of the pillars in terms of how we're looking at the business and more importantly the data that we're collecting, and then I'm going to show you how we're applying this through some of our systems. We look at complexity at the top. Complexity here isn't around the system, this is in terms of the diagnosis and engagement. So we start with very simple asking medical questions. What is a migraine, etc. We can move then through to triaging. Triaging allows us to engage with patients. So 111 would be a good example of that, where you make a call to them, they'll take you through a standard logical pathway to try and diagnose you. If these two systems can't solve the problem, you move into the consultation stage. And at this stage is when you're relying on a doctor, a trained medic. Outside of that box, though, what we can start doing as well is monitoring health. That's where we start relying today with specialists, but also with technology as well. And this is an area that's evolving substantially. You then proceed through to tests and kits. At this stage, this is where you're needing treatments. Maybe it's a scan, maybe it's blood tests, etc. All the way through to specialist referral. And if that still doesn't resolve it, you're ultimately going to end up in surgery. So that our business focuses on those 6 channels. The area that we are applying AI architecture, and we've got about 4 of our AI specialists in the team, so any questions, I'm going to literally direct them back to them. But what I hope you will see with this is that we're looking to really close the whole loop on all of our consultation work that we're doing. Okay. Right, this next bit is a bit of a trial, so let's see if it'll work. Okay, so this is a system that's in progress. You'll see part of this released in April, and there'll be more iterations of this system coming through. I'm not really showing you under the bonnet, I'm showing you how it's applied through an application.
Looking at your calendar and emails, I can see you're having a more relaxed day. So how can I help you?
I love that. If you look at my calendar, it's really not relaxed. I don't know where the speech is. Is it from there? Can you hear it okay? Good, okay. So I can use speech into this or just type. I'm going to type today. I have headache.
I'm sorry you're feeling unwell. Try not to worry. Headaches are really common and they're normally easy to treat. Are you happy to answer a few more questions?
So yes.
First things first. Have you hit your head recently?
No, I'm often banging it because I don't get enough responses from the engineers, but all over.
Okay, and how did the pain start?
Let's say gradually.
I see. So how would you rate your pain at this moment?
I'll do a 5
right.
because I'm brave.
Just a few more questions and we'll get this sorted. Have you had any dizziness?
No.
And have you had a fever?
No.
Have you experienced any nausea or vomiting?
No.
How has your eyesight been? Have you had any of these problems?
Let's say it's painful to look at the light.
Okay, we are almost there. Have you had any of these?
Clumsiness. I have had a bit of clumsiness this afternoon.
Ali, this doesn't sound good at all.
Okay.
By the sounds of things, you're going to need emergency treatment or hospital investigations to rule out a serious condition. I strongly advise you to get to the nearest emergency department immediately. If there's no one who can drive you, call an ambulance.
It was really dangerous what I just did. I went off pattern. But this is a live system, so we've got over 13 billion combinations on this simple part of the system that's just focused on body parts. The key part for that, though, is what this system is doing is taking you through a course of triage. And through the algorithms that the team have been working on and the data that they're building up in the background, it's identifying whether you're at risk and you need to do an action or whether you can just stay at home and just take some initial early treatment. Maybe it might be to take some water, rest for 24 hours, etc. But from that point, it might also say, listen, we're going to suggest you speak with one of our doctors. So in that example, I would just say, okay, we're going to book with the doctor.
Appointment.
We book a consultation.
Hi, Ali.
It will then come up and remind me.
5 minutes.
So think about this. This is the phone. I've done my triage. It suggested I speak with the doctor. I've booked the appointment. And now I left it. And now the device is going to start reminding me this is what I need to do. This is our standard system, one of our doctors. We do the consultation. All of these consultations are recorded. So today they're just video and audio files. Our plans will be to start taking that data, transcribing that data, and learning from these consultations. I think there's a big difference from what you read in the medical journals, for example. So these are like real live events. And what we're starting to see already through our live data is patterns of consultations and patterns of diagnosis. So we do a standard rating on all of our areas as well. Press done. The next part for this, which is going to be a first, is what we're doing with the records is completely unique. Like today, if you go to see your doctor or any of your surgeons, they'll take their own clinical notes. They're not really readable. And one of the challenges the government has at the moment is it's trying to make these records public for you guys to have access to. The challenge is the way it's been written by the doctors over the last sort of 10, 15 years, it was never designed to be read by yourself. So there's a huge data cleansing exercise going on in the background, and that's one of the challenges why it's being so difficult for technology firms and also you as the public to get access to your records. But what we will do with this is we'll categorize this data. And again, all of this information will start helping our consultation process. If we need to give you a prescription, we'll do the prescription. Currently today you can send this to any pharmacy. We use geolocation and where you are and look at the physical pharmacies around you. Let's say we're going to do that. It's very slow if I'm on the network. We'll proceed to there. Okay, so we're done there. What I think is really interesting is the point you mentioned about 10 billion per drug. And we know that there's something like 60% of medication is currently not used or thrown away. This is an alarming amount. And my background was actually not healthcare. I've done 7 years in healthcare now, but I previously was out of retail and media. And I've come from businesses that run extremely tight financial controls. So the clothing industry is exceptionally tight. Margins are wafer thin. Music industry, wafer thin. I came into the health sector and I was quite shocked because just the abundance of money. I mean, billions of pounds that you're talking about for one drug is phenomenal. But there's huge wastage. And this is really, again, where you guys can really make a huge difference by coming into these industries and changing it. So what we want to start doing here is start using the technology. So we know we've prescribed to you already this medication, right? So we want to know, have you taken it yet? No, I'm going to take it later.
Ali, are you being a bit naughty now?
No,
Don't you think
I
you
mean,
should take your
whether
medicine?
we can get the sense of humour in this device. That was Niles' shock of, I've got one. It did work. The good thing with this, though, is that what we're now starting to do is, if you think about it, done the consultation, we've suggested you have some medication. Now, if you're with your today's environment, you'll take that medication. You may take it, you may not take it. The GP doesn't know what's happened at that point. He doesn't call you back and understand, have you taken the medication? Did you feel better? What we're starting to do now is close the loop on our machines. And that's a really important part on our learning process. So I will definitely take them. So up until now, what we're doing is still doing collection of data. The next thing I want to show you is what we're going to move into is monitor. And monitor here, what we can start doing by taking these different measures, like walking, your blood, your diagnosis, looking at your past medical records extra, for example, we can start trying to personalize the health experience. So up until now, it's generic. So it's a bit like the 111 service. So we know who you are, we know your age, we know you're male or female. Here, what we're going to start doing is taking your biometric data, for example. And in this, we can connect things like genetic information, the environment information. So if you're asthmatic, for example, we know you're in Marylebone. The weather measurements are particularly strong there, particularly with all the pollution. And start sending alerts out, like you're in this environment. Don't forget to sort of maybe take a breathing mask or take your asthma ventilation if necessary. We can bring in behavioural as well. And I'll cover a bit of this in a second. And of course, the biological, which I've mentioned in terms of different diagnosis. These are tests that we already do through different blood tests. We collect the data and we can start analysing whether you're on the right level or not on the right level. Let's look through vitamins. My weight's broadly fine. Cholesterol a little bit high, and the blood pressure. And what we then will do with this is develop a plan, a personalised plan for you. And what this will enable you to do, if you're looking to reduce your cholesterol level, is give you a personalised working environment that we can actually make sure you're on track to achieve your targets. Okay, now I have to do something next.
Hi, Ali. I have noticed your heart rate has been higher than usual in the last 48 hours. Your exercise levels have not changed, but your heart is beating a little faster. Lots of things can cause this, but common reasons include dehydration, stress, or the early signs of a fever. Make sure you drink lots of fluid and avoid caffeine and alcohol. Getting some rest will also help. If you start to experience fainting, lightheadedness or dizziness, chest pain, shortness of breath, please book in with a doctor.
So again, what you're seeing here is, as the data that we're collecting about you, we can understand what your norm rates are. But a lot of these early indications when people get sick are kind of very early patterns. So again, we'll use the technology, the learning through the machines to start prompting this. Again, you could just book a consultation, check your data, etc. One final
Hi,
thing as well I
Ollie.
want to pick on
I have
here.
noticed that you are using your phone a bit more than usual and have not left the house for the last 3 days. I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Would you like me to book you an appointment?
Yeah, that's if I don't know, maybe I was a bit lonely that time. We have some really interesting stats that we look at, and I mean, I don't know if any of you saw the TED talk, but Ali talks about the concern in the world at the moment with terrorism, but the fact that over the last 2 centuries we've lost more people to suicide than throughout the whole of the terrorist acts that have gone on in those last 200 years. And even now, most families will suffer with somebody in their family with a form of depression. It's almost like the unspoken illness at the moment, much like diabetes is an illness we all understand. Depression is the next one that's really coming out, and it's shocking. But again, quite simple things that we know through our data, like people in terms of the behaviour, these are scientifically proven as well. Now, what we're not saying is we're going to be buzzing you every 10 seconds saying there's something wrong, you haven't moved for 5 minutes. But this is indications, and as the knowledge bases in these systems become more sophisticated and more educated, this is where you can start taking technology. It can genuinely make a massive, it can transform people's lives. It really, really can. I'm going to come out of this, go back to this. So I was saying earlier that nearly 60% of the medicines are thrown away, and there's no current closed loop to the system. So it's very rare that you'll get a follow-up from your specialist or your GP. Does that make it better? It helps me read it better, actually, if I'm going to do that. In terms of this other stats I get, we're losing between 10 and 18 people a day to suicide. Studies have shown that if you're staying at home and using your phone more than normal, you're much more likely to suffer a depressive attack. Now, you're not definitely going to suffer a depressive attack. I occasionally have the odd weekend where I'm like, that's it, I'm switching off, I'm doing nothing, I'm just watching 24 hours of movies or something. But these are really early stage indicators. The other part you saw as well with the heartbeat. Okay. Just a few final things I want to put in there as well. This is more now about the environment, investment environment, etc. So investors now, through health and technology, are looking to invest well over $1 billion. And we know that number's already gone much, much higher. This is really exciting for people that are looking now to move into the health tech space, because 2 or 3 years ago, it was very tough. Now, it's still difficult, but the market is really opening up. There's a device that's been developed by Cambridge, the CMOS sensors, which can detect a range of diseases in your breath when you exhale. We've also looked at another company in Portugal that's done a light test on the skin that can diagnose several hundred conditions just by doing that as well. If you think if that technology can move into the mobile phone, and I can use the light from the phone to do that, we're getting to the sort of era of the, probably pre your time actually, Star Trek. Right, now we've gone super small. There we go. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, if you think about it within a few years from now, just anything, your clothing, all of this technology is going to be wired into you and connected through your home. You're going to be able to take these things in terms of simple things like blood tests and really run it through for things like more serious illnesses, perhaps like cancer, for example. And one of the reasons I moved into healthcare is I came out of industries that knew with very finite detail. I ran the logistics operation for ASOS for about 4 years. And during that time, I could predict how much stock, how much was going to be placed on order by day. It was almost forensic. When I came in, and what moved me into healthcare was when my grandmother had a relatively straightforward operation. She went into hospital, and it was delayed. It was almost like 36 hours, and during that time she wasn't fed or watered. And what really shocked me was not the fact there was a lack of resource. There was actually abundant resource. The issue was information. People just didn't have information. It was on sheets. Different doctors had different slides. One doctor's slide didn't have the age. The other doctor's slide did have the age. And even at that time, I was thinking, this is crazy. We have mobile devices. So this is now exactly the right time for technology to really break through to the health environment. And what's really exciting is, I think, what I'm seeing with the scientists, and certainly the guys that we've got on board, is genuine delivery of systems that can change people's lives. I think that was it.